like shooting right up into my neck, you know? But, anyway, well, let's give it a try. Want to hit it, Paul? The way you wear your hat, the way we dance till 3, the memory of all that. Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime podcast. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
Tonight we are talking about Season 1, Episode 12, with host Dick Cavett and musical guest Jimmy Cliff. Brad, this episode was a lot of Dick Cavett.
Was it?
It was enough Dick Cavett.
It was definitely enough. I will
All right.
say that. It was definitely enough.
We spoke before you watched this episode, and you confessed, much to my surprise, that you are not a big Dick Cavett fan.
I'm not. And it's not to say I don't like Dick Cavett. I do not think I am well versed enough in Dick Cavett to know if I like him or not.
You know Dick Cavett had a talk show for many years.
I've heard.
Different incarnations of a talk show. It was a
I've
morning
just learned
show,
that, yes.
daytime show, late night show, PBS, blah, 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 all these years. At this time, he had just had a variety show in the summer of 75 on ABC.
Okay.
It still called the Dick Cavett Show,
Of course.
but it was like a variety show. So I think part of him being host of Saturday Night Live here is him showing that, like, yes, I can do this stuff. This is me entertaining. This isn't just me as a talk show host.
Because I was trying to wonder, because I guess he's not that well known as a comedic performer, more of a talk show host. And I was trying to figure out, like, how he gets tapped to host. Because, on one hand, I'm like, right, this show wants to be very, like, new and different and anti-TV and against the mainstream. And part of me thought, like, Dick Cavett really represented a lot of mainstream. But then I went back and thought about it and was like, but then he also had, like, a lot of cutting-edge guests, like music guests and rock stars. So and it's just my own view of things. I don't know how to say this, obviously. I'm a little bit baffled as to how he gets on the show or why he gets on the show. And then I also think the show does him no favors in being the end of a 4-week stretch, which I think you really see, and we're going to talk about a lot tonight. Like, he's not in he's in one half sketch, Dick Cavett, the host. Most of this night is single people talking to camera, a couple, 2 people. Like, there's only one legit sketch in this episode, which is shocking to me a little bit.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot here. This is kind of like the Christmas episode in a way where they wanted to get out the door, right? Like,
this feels even more so than that.
This was definitely, let's get to a break here and have, I don't know, maybe it was let's have a veteran performer like Dick Cavett come in. I don't really know.
But it's not someone you can lean on. Like, I think we mentioned this last week. We said this last week with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, which actually, now this makes more sense. We thought they were getting tired. And we thought maybe they bring in hosts they can really lean on, have their own stuff. But if they did that last week, you would have thought maybe then there was fuel in the tank this week to really come through. And this is by far the weakest episode I think we've seen. Just because there's not a lot to talk about. Like, everything's, I don't know, there's just not a lot there. There's no substance.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think how many episodes you've said that about now.
This is 2. I said this for 2. I said the Christmas episode and this. I know my tallies.
And I think we get a Dick Cavett who is past his peak of the height of the Dick Cavett Show. And this is seemingly, to me, it's a name that they could get to host the show.
Yeah, it's season 1. It's halfway through season 1. So they're not getting names on the show themselves just yet. So, yeah, I guess it's a fair point. All right.
I think that's what this is. Well, should we get into it?
Please, let's go. Clock is running.
All right. The cold open starts with Chevy in a room with a bunch of ladies watching TV and them feeding him strawberries. And then he gets up and leaves. And Garrett confronts him in the hallway. And we see that Garrett has created a Chevy voodoo doll. Chevy says he has a bad back, and it's because Garrett has the voodoo doll.
No, he says he has a bad back because he injured it during the fall last week, which is only because we just watched it. There was no fall last week. So it's very odd that he said, that was the first thing I noticed, was like, you didn't fall last week, dude.
That's see, Chevy's already lying.
Already. Well, and I do find it interesting and fun that they're now starting to hit on the whole issue of Chevy getting the press and becoming the breakout star. Like, even his line when he says to Garrett, "You're a fine actor," he sounds like a total condescending dick.
So much. I was like, oh, you're such an asshole.
Like, this is why I don't like Chevy. Like, now it's coming. This is why I don't like Chevy Chase. But I like the idea. I didn't like Garrett's performance, unfortunately, and I was happy to see Garrett featured. And I just, who knows what his issues were at this point. But yeah, Chevy goes on stage and does his bit like he's going to sing a song and avoid the fall. We cut back and forth to Garrett punching the voodoo doll. And I actually like the cut that they did, the gimmick they did where they cut to Garrett and he just throws the doll against the wall. And as soon as the doll hits the wall, we cut to Chevy like flying from the stool.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that worked really well. And then, he does a fall. It says live from New York. So as an opening, I kind of liked it that it wasn't Gerald Ford. I've been enjoying these non-Gerald Ford openings and them finding different ways to do an opening. So it started off pretty good, I think.
I agree. My favorite thing about Garrett and Chevy interacting is that Garrett calls him Chevy. Every time. He does it every time they're on screen together. He's like, Chevy, baby. I love it. But I agree with you. I thought this was a good cold open.
It was a good open.
Good way to start the show.
Yeah, totally.
From there, we kind of lose momentum with Dick Cavett's monologue.
This is not good. I mean, right off the bat, he does a joke like he's reading the cue cards and it says, "Hi, I'm Candace Bergen," which does not hit at all.
No.
And like my note was, why does this worry me? Like, the first joke off the bat does not hit. I was like, now I'm worried. Because I feel like it's decently written. Like, there are jokes, there are some funny bits. He tells a good story about, when he tried to interview for the NBC Page program and he didn't get it. And then the punchline of his joke was like, the last question, do you agree with overthrowing the American government with force or violence? And his joke is, I chose violence.
Yeah.
There was such a long delay that I actually think they put an applause sign on. Like, it was silence, and all of a sudden, 3 seconds later, there was applause. Like, someone hit a switch, and the sign went on. And that's kind of that's how this whole monologue goes, of just jokes that don't land.
I thought the sperm bank joke was the best joke.
I agree. And my note for that was, he tried so hard to sell that joke, and it still didn't hit. Like, was there a Jimmy Cliff joke he tried to make that, again,
yes,
no one laughed? Like, there's just no reaction.
That was a bad joke. He actually made 2 Jimmy Cliff jokes, and neither of them were funny. I did like his little joke or commentary about how he's thought of as over-intellectual and his intellectual humor doesn't hit. Like, that was really good. And he started going on and on and on and just almost Dennis Miller-esque, blabbering on. I'm like, this is great. It should have ended there. Like, why is he still going? What I did like, what I wrote down was that he started talking about the musical guest, which we hadn't really seen.
I did notice that. Yes, that was a good point.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's good. But then he turned it into really bad jokes.
Yeah. You didn't like the dropping cow? Because that I felt was right in your wheelhouse, because it's so Monty Python.
You're right. No, I actually forgot about it, but I did enjoy it in the moment. I didn't write it down, though.
And to me, I thought it funny that we talked last week about how we feel like he got cooking more because he wanted Monty Python on.
Right.
And then this week they do this, what seems like a blatant Monty Python joke of dropping the cow, which I believe they return to again in the future. But it was, and thank God, like, this ended this, like, here's our out, drop a cow, good night.
But what was interesting was we went from shooting a cow to the next sketch, Chevy shooting everything.
Anyone who walks on stage is going down.
Except, yeah. So the next scene is Jane on the phone with someone talking about she read this book, The Total Woman, which is a real book, and it was out in the early 70s.
The 70s.
Right. But she's talking about she's widowed, and she's found this man who she's dating, and she thinks he might pop the question, and he went duck hunting. And then Chevy comes on, and you hear a gunshot. He shot her dog. She introduces him to her son, John. He ends up getting shot. Everyone ends up getting shot. It's fine. It's funny. I liked when he shot the door and the glass breaks.
Even though the timing was horrible and didn't work, but yes.
Well, the timing was off, but it's live television. That's all right. What I appreciated most about this, Brad, was how early in the show we get to say how great was Jane.
She's pretty good. She's pretty
Right?
good. I mean, this is a great example of her abilities, and it's really great seeing her showcased as the comedic lead in a sketch finally, which I don't think we've seen yet. And it's funny because it's very mid 70s. I mean, the whole sketch is like how much a woman will put up with or let happen to have a man or to be with a man or to, have a man in her life. So she has a line in the beginning when she's on the phone and she's talking about being widowed and this is the guy for her, and she's talking to her friend or whoever, and she says, oh, an old broad like me with 2 kids can't be too choosy.
Right.
And I'm like, first of all, it's a hilarious line. She says it she delivers it so well. But I'm like, really? Like that? Like they're yet again of like SNL not aging that well. But she's just so good in her delivery on the phone. And then Chevy comes in and, they do a good job of building to it, with where it's going and how absurd this is going to get. Because it gets completely absurd at the end. As you said, he kills both her kids. At one point, then you're waiting and you're like, no way is he going to shoot her. Sure enough, shoots Jane.
I thought he was going to shoot himself. Like,
he did.
I thought,
at the end.
I know, but I thought he was going to shoot himself and then she would be left alone.
Oh,
that's where I thought it was going. Because
they really hammer the joke home when he shoots her and she's still like, it's okay. Ask the question. Then it was funny when he asked for the martini and she tries to get up and like holding herself and goes and gets him the martini off the tray. Like, for the joke they were making, they do a good job of selling it and getting to the point. She has a great line when he talks about the dog, killing the dog, and she's like, well, he was almost 7 in dog years. But it's basically a puppy.
She says that about her daughter. She's like, it was 19 good years.
She had good years. I like John. I thought John's still doing a good job playing, young, impish kind of kids. He took a great fall. I thought John's fall off the steps when he got shot was great.
He took a great fall.
He did a really good face plant. And again, how great is Jane? Has a great reaction, no problem. And she refers to him, that was my son. Like, that was my son in past tense, and just keeps moving right on. Lorraine takes a great hit. At this point, I'm like, how many kids does she have? Is the whole cast going to come down those stairs and get hit?
Lorraine took a great hit, and she also made this great noise.
Yes, she was great. And Chevy has a very good line when they're sitting on the couch together, and he looks at her and goes, now that we're alone, as it were. And it's like such a great line. Like, it's so dark. It's so good. And at this point is when I'm like, okay, now they're really milking this. How far can they take this? And then they turn it into a PSA at the end, which was bizarre.
We talked about it earlier in the season, how they were like forcing their way out of sketches. And then eventually they got to a point where they just started fading to black and figuring out different ways out of sketches. And they really, in my opinion, forced it here.
The ending?
Yeah.
No. I mean, I think you could have left it as Jane dies and Chevy's just left there like not knowing what to do and just kind of looking around dumbly.
Right.
And then
just
go and fade
to
out.
black.
You're good.
That's it.
Exactly. It's written decent. They tell the jokes well. They go after it. They do hammer it home pretty well. There are some great lines. The performances are great. Chevy's good. Jane's fantastic. Yeah, when you look at it at the time, I was like, oh, not bad. And as the episode went on, I appreciated it, enjoyed it more and more.
The next bit, which is one of the few bits that Dick Cavett does the entire show, to your point earlier, it's commercial for Dick Cavett's School of Auto Refinishing and Upholstery. And it's just Cavett to camera in an office setting, essentially.
And it's quick. It's really quick. They have a nice cut and paste with the picture of Dick Cavett on the guy in the automotive shop. And he has a nice little song. Like, I didn't mind this when I saw it because it's the first thing we saw and it was quick. I'm like, okay, great. We just had a long sketch. This is a nice little short thing. It's kind of funny. It makes fun of Dick Cavett. This, as it was not horrible.
In the moment, it wasn't horrible.
Because you don't...
because you're expecting more.
Yes.
Then we have Dick Cavett come back, and he is introducing the band who's behind him, much like we have now. And he introduces Jimmy Cliff.
Jimmy Cliff,
who plays The Harder They Come.
I'm sorry, Dick Cavett's taking me out of I got nothing.
Focus on Jimmy Cliff. Jimmy Cliff was great.
Jimmy Cliff was fantastic. Jimmy Cliff is way too hip for this host.
Jimmy Cliff, first of all, Jimmy Cliff has a 10-piece band playing with him. Did you realize that?
Is that including, because he's got the house horns, the house band horns are playing. Like
that's
Lulu
including,
and, it was with
yeah,
those
yeah,
guys.
it's including those guys.
It's great. Listen, hot take.
Okay.
This right here,
yeah,
top 3 musical performances we've seen on the show this season so far. Hands down. It's got to be top 3 so far.
Yeah. I would even say this might be my favorite performance all season. It was amazing. He's great.
Really good.
It's so great to watch him play live and watching him dance. It was just awesome.
He's so good.
The whole thing was great.
And they shot it well. Like, they had this really cool angle they did a couple times, that low angle where he was like blown out with the light around him. Like, it looked
With the red
fucking
light,
awesome. Yeah. Like, this whole performance is just great.
That was totally 70s. Like, get the camera underneath him with the red light behind him, and it worked. It was great.
Great song, great energy, performed well, really fun. And I had hope going into the next bit with Belushi, but this is where we start to go down, sadly.
We have our first commercial for H&L Brock. John Belushi plays Lowell Brock, and he's giving you the first of his 17 reasons why you should choose H&L Brock.
Over H&R Block.
Yes, over H&R Block. Reason number 1 is we will cheat for you. And then reason number 2 was the bogus receipt service, which I enjoyed.
He just didn't play it very well, though. Like, nothing about this worked. It's not written that well, which I'm bummed because I believe this is his Bell piece.
Yeah.
So, obviously I want to like it right off of the bat. And it's Belushi, so I want to like it. But John feels just uncomfortable in saying it. It's lit really weird. Like, it's really hard shadows and that kind of took me out of it a little bit.
I thought that was lit that way on purpose, like a bad TV commercial.
Oh,
was how
you think?
I read that.
Oh,
I don't know. Maybe I'm giving it more credit, but that's how I read it. And that's how I read his performance too. Was like, he's an awkward accountant.
Yeah. I don't know. It was interesting. So I was, and I did make a note after watching this. At this point, I'm like, okay, now we have 2 in a row of singles talking to camera. I was like, Are we getting an end of the run boredom spiel again? Because I did notice it on this one that we had 1 sketch and now you've got 2 solo direct to camera sketches. And my worry increases.
Well, luckily for you, there's plenty more to camera. Just like in Weekend Update, which is next. I thought this Weekend Update, his opening on the phone was funny this week.
I did not think it was that funny, even though it got a good reaction from the crowd.
Oh, you didn't like it?
No, I was kind of so.
Did you get it?
I did get it. My actual line is, I get it, ... just not that funny. No, they had some funny jokes. I like the picture of Castro when he's with his fingers kind of ajar, and they're like, oh, Castro. CIA denying that they tried to kill Castro with an invisible exploding cigar. It was kind of funny. It was dumb and funny.
That was funny.
They went back to their artist rendering of the Patty Hearst trial.
Yeah.
Which, it's kind of funny, but what I didn't like about it, it was nothing new. Like, it was legitimately the same exact thing they did before, where they show these kind of crude drawings, which I think those were drawn by Bell, actually. I could be wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But, so they have these like funny, like cartoonish drawings, and Chevy does the reporting from another reporter, I forget the guy's name, with a weird voice, so Chevy's holding his nose. And then that's all it is. It goes on way too long, and then you pull back and you reveal Chevy holding his nose, pretending he's the other guy. Like, it's legitimately the same exact bit they did the first time they screwed, at least with stuff like Angola or whatever, they try to introduce something new to it, but this is literally a retread of what you tried a month ago.
Well, with Angola, this time they sent Lorraine on assignment to Angola, and then she interviews Dan. The first time we've seen Dan all night.
Sadly, yeah.
And I think it's the only time we've seen Dan all night.
I think it might be, yeah.
It wasn't great.
It's not funny. But at least, again, like I was just saying, the Angola thing, they keep trying to up it or change it, or they're going to the same general well again, but it's a different method. And I can at least appreciate them trying. Whereas that artist rendering bit, again, like I keep saying, is the same thing they did before.
Yeah.
Interesting joke before that, which I actually kind of liked, where Chevy gives the report that Professor Backwards died, and people did not come to his cries of pluh, pluh, or help backwards, if you will.
Yes.
Which I thought was funny, and I thought it was weird. Like, not only did it not get a reaction, but I think the crowd kind of like booed, because that's apparently a real guy. Like, that was a real story that happened. It was an O'Donoghue joke that obviously did not hit well. Because even Chevy has this look where he's like, that didn't go. And I'm wondering, and we got to get into it more. I know we hit on it before, where like the Chevy O'Donoghue relationship sours, and they start to really. This was the first time where I feel like I need to get into my research and figure out when they took a turn, because I feel like at this point, here's an O'Donoghue joke that Chevy probably didn't want to say. We've seen instances of this before where he says a joke and it doesn't go over, and he like looks off camera or has a reaction where he's like, I told you, or I knew it, and he's just or pissed that he had to say it. And I feel like this is an instance of that.
Was Herb Sargent not doing Weekend Update yet?
No, he was doing it. He was one of the key creators of it and hugely involved in it. Yeah.
I just didn't know, because years later, like no one else was really writing Weekend Update except Herb Sargent. But at this point, everyone's contributing.
Yeah, at this point, it's like you have jokes, you write them, you put them in. Chevy's doing a lot of the writing. O'Donoghue's doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Zweibel, because of his Catskills background, stand-up comedian, he's writing a lot of jokes. He tells stories where there's episodes he's under the desk, like handing Chevy jokes as he's reading. So, yeah, I think in these early years, it's more of a everybody write jokes, whatever works, sticks. And again, because it's season one, O'Donoghue has a lot of clout. It's a lot, like we've noticed with those George Wallace jokes that he did for 3 weeks straight. There's a lot of Michael O'Donoghue in the updates. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chevy does have, as much as I feel like Chevy is very off tonight in update. He's just like, again, the pacing's off, or the jokes aren't hitting, or he's not happy with the jokes, but he just feels off. But he does, right after the Professor Backwards thing, have a great flub where, again, I've always said Chevy does a great job of messing up a line or screwing something up and playing it off really well. So he does have that there. I'll give him credit. But overall, it's not his strongest. There's something off with him tonight.
The commercial this week is a repeat of the Felina cat chow, cat food, whatever, that we saw in episode 3. Again, the same pre-tape.
Still not funny.
Still didn't like it.
No, sadly.
And then we come back to Emily Latilla and her editorial reply opposing the Eagle Rights Amendment. I enjoyed this.
I like this one.
This one didn't have that tough wordplay that we talked about last week. We knew what this was right off the bat.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And I thought she did great. And I thought the commentary itself was funny, too.
It's starting to feel a little like overkill because it's the 4th week in a row now we've seen it. But, it had a good premise. It had funny wordplay. And I don't think it overstayed its welcome. Like, by the time you were starting to get there, like, Chevy interrupts her and it ends well. So.
Yes.
Between you and me, if we give eagles rights, the next thing you know, we'll have to give rights to pigeons and robins and parakeets. Why, you won't be able to get a seat in the park. It'll be the birds sitting on the benches throwing us little pieces of toast. If we're going to give birds rights, we ought to give it to parrots. At least they can talk.
Miss
Not
Latella.
the eagles, they don't do a thing.
Miss
I
Latella.
can't believe.
Miss
What?
Latella.
What?
The editorial was in favor of the Equal Rights Amendment. Not Eagle Rights, Equal Rights.
Equal rights?
Yes.
For who?
For people, Miss Latella.
Oh, well, that's reasonable.
Yes.
Never mind.
It's so silly it worked. Like this was a good one. The last two, I would agree, not very good, but I like this one a lot. It was really fun.
I agree. And then the last bit is for those who may have been watching I Love Lucy reruns instead of Weekend Update at the beginning. Tom Schiller comes on as Desi Arnaz and reads the top story. I thought this was funny.
He got a great reaction.
He was good.
He was
had
good.
A really good impression.
It's a decent bit. It was funny.
Yeah.
He actually grew up in L.A. and apparently grew up with his father, I think, was in television and knew Desi Arnaz Jr., so he knew them.
Oh.
Yeah, so he'd been around them long enough to really, I think, grasp a little bit of it and be able to pull from it. But yeah, I thought he did a good job. It was fun.
From there, we have another commercial, this time for Dick Cavett's School of Hydroplane Operation. It's the same set as earlier. Same setup, same gimmick. Cavett 2 camera.
I've now realized my first note, he has not been in an actual sketch. We've gone through Weekend Update, and the host has yet to appear in an actual sketch with somebody, which is just sad.
But to your point earlier, we've only had one real sketch. Everything else has just been 2 camera, 1 person.
Well, my second note is the third solo to camera in a row. Take out Update. Now we've done 3 in a row, solo to camera.
I've got a 4th for you.
Right.
The next bit, which is just Cavett to camera, is him performing for Our Town. Dick Cavett is doing this quote-unquote production of Our Town on stage by himself with a fake pipe that he keeps putting to his mouth, and you can hear it like a kid's toy. Like, it's just, I was like, come on. I'm not saying you have to smoke a real pipe, but at least don't suck on the fake one.
I got excited. My first note on this was, holy shit, it's a sketch. Because I thought this was going to be I thought it was going to be more than it was going to be. And then it took me about a minute, and I realized, oh, this is really another solo straight to camera sketch. Again.
Yeah.
I feel like Our Town.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, so you know Our Town, the play?
Right. It's real play.
Our Town starts with the stage manager coming on and telling you about the town that they're taking you to. He sets up the whole thing. In this sketch, it's Cavett setting up Our Town as New York City, present day 1976, where it's bankrupt and there's trash on the street because of the strike, and there's robberies and prostitution and the old lady getting strangled that you hear off stage. Yeah, that's what this sketch is.
And I think this would have really worked if there were other actual sketches on the show. Because this worked really well for Dick Cavett with this kind of dry. I thought he did a great performance. I thought it was written pretty good, and I really liked it. It was just that I was tired of watching one person talk to camera. And if there would have been other stuff on this episode, I think this would have been we would have been like, this is hilarious. This is great. It's such a great change of pace. We always talk about change of pace. We've seen this all damn episode.
Right.
Which was a bummer.
And it could have been like Lily Tomlin's last sketch where she's just on stage by herself doing that whole talk through the dance or whatever.
Right.
It could have, because you're right. It was very well written. I thought he performed it well.
It was written well for him. Yeah, totally.
Right. But you wanted something to happen here where it was just like, all right.
Right. Because you've been waiting in a half an hour for something to happen.
Yeah.
Because there's some great jokes in there. They always, and his delivery, like when he's talking about the porn shop and he's like, they always put the black over the good parts. Like he delivers them with,
yes,
the inflection is just so well done. A couple of them miss, the air controllers must be on strike again. Didn't land very well.
Yeah.
And it gets dark. I mean, with the woman, I don't know. Again, I liked it. But it just, it was a good sketch on a bad episode. And I think it just didn't serve itself.
I'm going to go back to Jimmy Cliff being the highlight of this show because he comes back on and performs Many Rivers to Come. From his 1969.
Many Rivers to Cross, no?
Many Rivers to Cross, yes. This was great. This was another great performance. It wasn't as energetic or as fun as the first performance, but again, it was more of respite.
It's not, but this is the most captivating moment of the show. It's not a knock on him. Like, he's great.
No. He's great. The transition to him, and I mean on the show, not in this podcast.
It was odd.
It was odd.
I mean, for both the transition and the podcast. But
Oh, well, all right. I'll take that. But Dick Cavett walks off from our town, and then they just bring up Jimmy Cliff right away. Like from that, it was odd, but it was a great performance again.
the only thing that upset me with this, and of course something had to.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you're here.
Yes. Why did the audience not burst into applause after his first line? Because it was so good. Last week, Neil Sedaka comes out. He utters one line of some shitty song, and they start clapping. Jimmy Cliff comes out and has more soul in those 5 or 6 words than that entire Sedaka performance, and no one claps. It bothers me. I'm sorry, the man should have gotten more respect from the crowd.
They were taken, like, they didn't know he was coming on because they're watching Dick Cavett. They're not seeing the circle wipe like the home audience is. And then all of a sudden they hear him playing. They have to turn their attention.
Yeah.
That's all. Cut him some
slack. But it was good. It was good, though. It was another great performance. Jimmy Cliff is saving this episode.
You know, Jimmy Cliff is still with us.
Yeah.
84 years old.
Dick Cavett's still with us.
Yeah.
You know who's not still with us? Marshall Efron.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Marshall Efron comes out as Dwayne Christensen, who is the winner of the 1976 Dick Cavett lookalike contest. Now, if you know...
Has potential.
If you know what Marshall Efron looks like, you will know that he looks nothing like Dick Cavett.
For anybody who doesn't know, is Dilbert a good example? Like from Office Space? Dilbert, maybe? That's the closest thing I think of. Heavy set, glasses, mustache.
Character. Yeah.
But amplified. A little.
But amplified, yes. And he comes out in this crazy... he's wearing like orange pants and an orange and red shirt and a yellow tie and this blue plaid sport coat. And whatever we can say about Dick Cavett and whatever he did or did not know about this, I thought he played this very well too, where he was like, someone's pulling my leg, right? I mean, the whole setup was a little forced, but I liked in the moment with him and Marshall Efron.
I liked Marshall Efron. I just didn't dig the whole the whole thing was Dick Cavett getting incensed or upset that this guy looked nothing like him, and I didn't think that was that funny. I thought Marshall Efron was funny, and some of the bits he did when he talked about working at the gas station and people would come up and ask for his autograph and you know who you are, like that. I thought that was funny, and then they put the chyron up at one point when they're talking, and it says Dick Cavett or Dick Cavett, and then his name under him. And then it goes away, and I was so waiting for it to come back, which you knew it would. And when it came back, I was waiting for them to switch the names, which they didn't do. They put them up under, but then they call attention to them coming up, and then Marshall switches them on camera, so they're on different. And I thought that was a great bit. I thought it was really funny the way he did that.
He was excellent. He was an excellent guest. Like, he was perfect for this, and I thought he was really great.
Dick's like, you're the guy who looks the best like me? And he's like, I'm the best you can do. Sorry. This is what you get.
He's telling the story about the little girl who's like, can I have your autograph? So I signed Dwayne Christensen.
She's like, that's not you.
He just said, hi, Dick. So I said, hi. This, I thought, went a long way to like being something fun. It's also the first interaction we see of Cavett with anyone else.
With any other human being on the show. Yes. That's a good point. It ends really shitty of him just like kicking him off the stage, but I don't know how you get out of something like this. It's just ugh.
Well, I didn't think he needed to kick him off stage. I thought they could just throw right to the Gary Weiss film.
Yeah, you're right. Like, why don't they both? Yeah, like why don't they both just do it together, or say, or Cavett be like, oh, why don't go ahead and introduce the film or something? Yeah, it'd been totally better. Right. Yeah, 100%. You're right.
Well, Gary Weiss's film is he talks to a plastic surgeon about improving the face of a clothing designer, and talks to the clothing designer about improving the surgeon's clothing. That's what this film was. I didn't think this one hit.
I didn't like this one either. I mean, my last comment was just ugh, followed by this just fits with the rest of the show. Ugh.
I was waiting for you to say I was wishing for an Albert Brooks film.
No, because it wasn't that long, but I don't know. We need our dear friend of the pod, Thomas Senna, to chime in on Twitter and let us know what he thought, because this would be an interesting one that like one of us might have actually liked. I
don't know about that.
I don't know. This one's rough. This one
is rough. I get the premise and the concept, but it just wasn't. These guys weren't great.
No, we've talked a bunch about how Gary Weiss doesn't always make funny films. Like some of them are not supposed to be funny.
Right.
I fear that this one was supposed to be funny and just wasn't.
Yeah.
Much like last week's was real people, a real woman, talking earnestly about what she cared about, a novelty store. And that's what really made it funny, where this felt again like it was two real people, the tailor and the plastic surgeon, genuinely talking about what they would do to change this person's appearance. But it's so dry, it just doesn't fit. It's not funny. It's just...
When he did the first one with Buck Henry and the real folks in upstate New York, that worked because you didn't spend any time with those people. You spent like one or two lines with each person, and you had Buck Henry there to move things along. The lady at the novelty shop was great because she was a character.
Yeah.
Like she made that whole thing. Neither one of these guys are interesting at all.
No.
Anyway.
Interesting. Jane Curtin dancing as Betty Ford.
I was glad that it was Jane. I thought she was good.
She was fine. She was good. I agree. It's just, I don't know. It's another, I mean, even though there's Chevy's voiceover, this is a kind of another solo person to camera sketch. It's just, just tired of seeing them this episode. This was a little bit different, but it's just bizarre. And I don't know. It felt a little too long for just like what the joke was. But her performance, I'll give you credit. Yeah. Her performance in what it was good. Is her interpretive dance as Chevy was doing the voiceover.
Yes.
She had some good reactions, some good moves. Yeah, totally.
Well, I'm sorry that you're tired of the one person, two camera, because we have another.
Because here it comes.
We have another H&L Brock commercial with John as Lowell Brock, continuing to list the reasons that you should choose his firm to do your taxes.
And my first note was a runner. Damn it! Because not only did I have to watch this, I knew there was a third one coming, and I was not excited.
Well, it was interesting because we saw this, and we saw two Dick Cavett commercials, and I thought, we have two runners this week.
That's good. Yeah,
but we didn't. I mean, we didn't get a third Dick Cavett,
No.
but we did get a third H&L Brock.
Yeah, I'm still not. Even though it's John, I can't get into this. I'm not digging it. They do this later in other episodes, and I think it's funnier because there is a H&L Brock clip that would always be on the Belushi best ofs. I think it's from one of the ones later in the season where for some reason they liked it enough where they tried to bring it back, and they did on multiple episodes. I think it is better down the line.
Well, I would argue that what's not better is this incarnation of Looks at Books because it's not hosted by Jane.
I agree. My very first note was yes, followed by a quick no, because I was excited. I was excited when I saw the graphic Looks at Books. I was like, great, we're going to get Jane. Playing Jane's going to be fantastic. I'm very excited. And then we get Chevy as the host, and I'm just like, really? And then, the whole premise, and then but then you get Dick Cavett in a sketch. So I'm like, okay, great. Maybe there's hope because now we see Dick actually interacting with someone. So I was kind of excited for it, even though it was Chevy, and I don't think he did that great of a job. But as the sketch went on, because it's Chevy interviewing Dick Cavett as the author of his book, what was it? Nebraska Pimp? Is that what it was?
Dick the Stick Cavett.
Dick the Stick Cavett.
Author of Nebraska Pimp. Yes. I did enjoy Dick's suit and his hat. I thought
the hat that he bought in Times Square while he was here for the show.
Yes. Yeah. But otherwise, there were a few lines in here that were funny, that worked, but
I mean, even Dick Cavett calls out the audience and catches them for not laughing at them.
Yes.
Like, even he knows we're fucking on a sinking ship.
That was good to see that he was just like, I met some fine people. Like, these folks here, they haven't laughed at us yet.
And I mean, give him credit. He plows on. He keeps moving through. So,
yeah.
Oh, God.
And I think Chevy seemed to enjoy that bit, too, when he said that. and then he kind of like broke the tension.
Yeah,
This is
it helped a little bit. Yeah.
After that, we have our last Jimmy Cliff performance. So he has 3 songs this week, right? This is our first performer that has 3 songs.
Yes, and in coming in and
Yes.
not being the biggest Jimmy Cliff expert in the world, I was suspect at seeing Jimmy Cliff was doing 3 songs. And now I am eternally grateful he did 3 songs. I wish he would have done 5.
I was just going to say 5 would have been good.
Oh, God.
But again, it's another, like, just, I think this one comes back from commercial and it's just the band playing. No intro or anything. That's
Like,
fine.
I don't know this song,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed it.
Oh, it was great. It was
It was
fun.
fun.
It's from his 1975 album, Follow My Mind. The song's called Wajaka Man.
Fun. He does a great job. Hey, is that drummer that they open, is he wearing Lorne Michaels' sweater with the reindeers on it?
I was going to ask you the same thing. I think he is.
Yeah, no, it was great. Like, normally I'd be like, do we need 3 tunes from the musical guest? And this week the answer is yes. Yes, we do.
What we don't need 3 of is H&L Brock commercials.
I think everyone, including Lauren, knew this.
Yes. So during this last H&L Brock sketch, John is trying not to break the entire time he's talking.
And you're wondering
And-
why. Because like his
Right.
second line, he's not saying, no offense, anything funny. And he's starting and he's breaking and he continues to break through the entire time.
Yeah. And at the end of the sketch, they pull back the camera and you see Lorne had crawled over and tied John's shoes together while he was doing the sketch. And I noticed that Lorne has a glass of white wine next to him. And of course,
Well, even John gave up at the end. He's just hamming it up by the end, making faces. He's like, we're done. Like, this is going nowhere. This is great. Yeah. But maybe they just realized it was going so poorly and going over so badly that the producer of the show literally crawls under the camera line and ties his shoes together while he's on air live. And then you hear him get up afterwards. He's like, what the fuck? He's like, it's great. Oh, yeah.
Dick Cavett, to his credit, plays with that when he comes back. And he plays with his shoe. And he says, the shoe must go on. And he was referencing that. But he introduces our first home movie, Apple Follies. I thought this was a fun sketch where it's apples going into a theater and then one female apple comes on stage and starts to strip. And they do a great job with the stop motion with the apples moving. I thought it was really well done. And then the plum police come and raid the theater. And then the plums get everyone out of there. I thought it was fun. I thought it was, it was well done. Stop motion. It was good.
Yeah, it was fine. I like the idea of the home movies. I like the idea of, the show trying to incorporate its audience and be a part of something. So I like that. It felt like filler, especially in this episode, but it would have been funny if they said it was from Albert Brooks. That would have been a funny joke. Yeah, it was a fun, something different to see, and I'll take it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. No, before you ask, the answer to your next question is no, it was not fun.
Alan Peterson tries to be fun when he comes on next and sings I Gotta Be Me. And as he sings, he's dressed as a construction worker in front of the same I-beam, I assume.
I was going to ask if it was the same I-beam from Hard Hats.
It has to be.
Must be.
So he's a construction worker, and as he's singing the song, he starts to strip, and he reveals that he's wearing women's underwear.
Yeah. Was this funny? Even in 1976. Was this funny?
I don't.
Someone must have thought it was.
I thought it was funny when he fell off the I-beam at the end.
I don't think that was planned.
No, it was not planned.
That was funny when he does this routine, and by this point he's in full underwear garter bit, and he gets on the I-beam. He has like a leg kick,
and he has a
and
wig
he basically
on.
falls his ass off. I will say, I thought the wig reveal was the only. I don't know if good is the right word.
It's not,
but it was like because he's wearing a hat the whole time.
A hard hat.
And so he takes that off and like this long blonde wig falls down.
Yeah.
And I thought that reveal was like the only thing that like kind of worked. Like I don't know.
It's a weird way to end the show. Even this show. Yeah, I don't know. And that's it. That's the show. We come back to Dick Cavett on stage by himself. The cast may have gone home like they did during the Paul
I kind of
Simon
had
show.
that joke too. I was like, where's the cast? Maybe they're just like, fuck it, we're not in this episode. I'm not sticking around.
Right? Like the last one we saw was Belushi.
And the last one we saw was Belushi, and they liked him so much they tied his shoes together on live camera.
I mean, we only saw, after Weekend Update, we only saw Jane doing the Betty Ford, Chevy doing Looks at Books, and John doing the IRS bit. That's it.
So did we
Everybody
not?
else was
We
done.
didn't see Garrett since the open.
Didn't see Garrett since the open. You only saw Dan during Weekend Update. You only saw Lorraine getting shot and then during Weekend Update. And you only saw Gilda during Weekend Update.
Huh. That's just weird. It's just, especially after the first two episodes they had of this little run, like the cast was getting in a good vibe. Like, why would you got to think they've got stuff in their own back pockets. Like, you're going to tell me Dan Aykroyd doesn't have a bit he can do on his own instead of Dick Cavett shilling some random hydroplane stuff? Ugh.
This was not a great episode. This was not a particularly fun episode.
Even the credits, they use like the weird stock photos that they had. Even Don Pardo left. Like Don Pardo wasn't there at the end to say goodnight. Like everyone fucking checked out on this.
Everyone was like, "We'll see you in 2 weeks."
I don't know. Yeah, it was not good. It was it had one sketch. In my mind, this show had one sketch. I guess you would count Looks at. Well, I'm wrong because you would count Looks at Books and you count Our Town as sketches. But I mean, it started off decent. You had that good Hunter sketch in the beginning that was fun and enjoyable, which only got better as the episode went on. You compared it to what you were watching. Again, I like Our Town. It was okay. It just didn't play well with the rest of the episode. I mean, this is by far, I got to say, this is the worst episode we've seen. Unfortunately. Ugh, I hate saying it.
Do you?
I do.
Hate saying it?
I do hate saying it. I don't want to sit here and review, watch, and talk about bad shows. Like, want it to be fun, want to be enjoyable. Like, there wasn't even, like, the Rob Reiner episode was not a good episode. But what I liked about it was there were great things to pull from it. Joe Cocker, that beat sketch at the end. Like, up until now, we've had what we or I would call bad episodes. But in those bad episodes, redeeming qualities. Up until this, I would probably say the Christmas episode, my least favorite. But out of that, you have Winter Wonderland, which is one of my favorite SNL Christmas sketches of all time and a really good opening. So you had stuff. This, I don't think has anything.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you because even in the Paul Simon show that I did not like, there was the whole basketball sketch.
Right.
Short film that was great. And the Hunter sketch was the best sketch of the night, I guess.
I refuse to blame Dick Cavett as well. Like, I will not put all of the blame on him.
I agree with you because when he does have the comedic parts, like he does a nice job in the Our Town thing. Like, his commercials aren't bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. They're not poorly acted on his part, I should say. And even the Nebraska Pimp, like, he does that character well.
Yeah. And he'll come back. He'll come back and host next year. So there's something there. I'm intrigued to watch. I do want to watch his next episode, and for a good reason. Like, I hope they've figured out what to do with him, how to write for him. He's obviously game for it all if he's coming back. So I'm intrigued to see his second episode in season 2.
Brad?
Yes?
What's your best bit?
I want to say none. Like, I think this is an episode you can skip and you're not missing anything. I don't want to pick something just to pick something, and I feel like that's what I'm doing if I picked something.
Okay.
So
you're allowed to do that.
I'm going to go with none. And I don't want to pick, I don't like picking the musical guests unless.
Why? This musical guest was amazing.
He was amazing.
This was our best musical guest of the show.
If there were other sketches that I could put him alongside with, I would say so. But to say the only reason you should watch this is to watch Jimmy Cliff, for some reason I just can't do it.
Okay, I'm going to do it.
Fine.
I think you should watch Jimmy Cliff perform in this show. And I would even take the Total Woman sketch. Like, I think that was funny.
You're reaching. It's funny, but you're doing it because you want to say something.
No, look, if you put that sketch in a full show, if you put that sketch in, I don't know, Buck Henry's episode, it would fit. It would work well and it would play well.
All right.
If you put it in Elliot Gould's episode or Lily Tomlin's or even Robert Klein's.
You only have 4 other hosts. You just want to go down the list?
It wouldn't work with Paul Simon. Nothing would work with Paul Simon.
You hate. Wow. He's like your Albert Brooks.
I don't hate Paul Simon as much as you hate Albert Brooks. Next week, we're going to talk about Season 1, Episode 13 with host Peter Boyle and musical guest Al Jarreau. So until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.